Hello and welcome to our ongoing Tarot On videos. We are now gradually making our descent on pandemic airways back into the airports of the new normal for each of our travellers as we have travelled along this way. I'm going to be covering this evening a Lenormand method, some background as to Arcadia and the way that a secret order or a secret society might embed its mysteries within the tarot cards. And also we're going to be presenting our first practical work. So I'm going to be showing you a method of astral projection that we're going to test today, tomorrow, and into Thursday. So we are all set to begin our descent in an orderly manner and do some practice along the way so that we can begin to practice some of the things we maybe picked up along our journey, ready for our re-entry into polite society as we go along. So it's nice to see all of the familiar faces. I've actually dropped something into the Facebook group literally 2 minutes prior to this video, which will make more sense to you in a moment. And say I'm going to be covering some Lenormand methods, or a particular Lenormand method in a moment, as well as our practical exercise that we're going to do as a group. And this is a recording. But this is particularly for the live viewing, the first time we've recorded this. I spent yesterday, basically it took all day, but I managed to download all 51 videos that have been recorded so far as MP4 files, so I can store them both on the computer and upload them onto a separate platform at some point. So our journey will be recorded for all time, for all posterity, long after we are well out of the pandemic. So I'd like to read to you something to begin with before we go on into our practical method. I'll do it in this order. I want to introduce how to hide a secret order first. Then we're going to do a Lenormand method, and then I'm going to sign off with the practical homework for tonight, which is which year is it at the moment? Which month is it? Whatever day it is, it's the 5th of the 5th, 2020. That must mean something. So I'll sign off with a practical method that we're going to practice tonight in our sleep, or as we go to sleep, and tomorrow, and then we're going to all report back in on Thursday, because there won't be a video tomorrow, Wednesday the 6th, so that we can practice our particular method and tune back in on Thursday, and we're going to discuss results and find out how we did as the age in our astral projection. So I'll come on to that towards the end of this video. So just like to read one of the first vignettes. In fact, it is the first vignette of Tarot Time Traveller that we wrote little fictional segments to bring the Tarot Time journey to life through this book. And we wanted to, first of all, start with Fate magazine, this magazine here, Fate, which was February 1955, 35 cents. And we wanted to introduce the yes-no spread and to talk about tarot history in the background whilst introducing something practical as the opening of the book. So we had to write a vignette to set the scene for this particular scene. And I'd like to read that vignette to begin with, which is this. And each of the vignettes starts with a specific date and time down the time stream, okay? So this is the 11th of February, 1955, Chicago, USA. We are time traveling. We have just touched down in our Tarot Time pod in mid-50s America. It is a small jump by time traveller standards, but one just right for us beginners. James Dean is still alive, and this year On the Waterfront will win the Oscars. As we arrive in downtown Chicago, we can immediately hear with some amusement the top hit of the day, Melody of Love by the Four Aces. Such resonances to our card deck show that we are on the right oracular wavelength. In fact, it is when we recognize such synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, that we know our cards are leading us correctly. We overhear two men on the street corner in passing. Someone called Lloyd Merriman has just been purchased by the White Sox from the Redlegs. As we walk by, they start to argue heatedly about left-handed batting. They are both wearing scarves across their faces, and it is curious to hear their muffled but insistent voices. It is cold here, and the wind is blowing hard across the lake. Our only task in this time is to simply purchase a copy of a magazine called Fate. So we locate the nearest newspaper vendor, seeing the headlines, US fleet evacuates Chinese nationalist Tashan Islands, and dig into our traveller's bag of time variable coins to hand over 55 cents. Without making too much contact with anyone, we hastily return to our time pod and put the little magazine on our shelf until we receive further instructions. That was fun. We could get used to this. And so that was the opening vignette of the book Tarot Time Traveller that Tali was working on this in 2015, 2016, and it was published, I think, by Llewellyn in 2017. So 2017 was when it was published. But now I'd like to read from something else, which is if you go onto the website www.arcartia.com, and that's ARKARTIA.com, you'll find a mysterious gate and a little video with 10 lines in it, which you, O illustrious order of hermits, can guess why there are 10 lines in the video for the gate on Arcartia. But there is a mystery behind that website, and it is our project called Arcartia. However, you can sign up for free, and I would recommend it for the Tashan Circle. And it is a series of emails that will arrive with you for free for 3 months, setting the backdrop for a big mystery, for a enigmatic mystery involving a particular symbol, the rose key. And that has its place in the whole story that lasts for a year within the Arcartia website itself. But the Tashan Circle is free. And I'd like to read the very first email that you receive in the Tashan Circle, which is this. Welcome to the Tashan Circle. It's good to have your interest and support for our endeavours in exploring Arcartia. Over the coming 3 months, we will send you information and news of our research, which you are, of course, welcome to share. You may also unsubscribe at any time during your participation in the circle. If at any time you wish to cross the gate, as we truly believe can happen, follow the instructions on the main site and experience your own journey into Arcartia. Note, the gate is currently closed. We believe the gate will open again soon, and our circle will be the first to observe it. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. For now, let us begin at the beginning. There is a point from which everything unfolds, and that point is the Tashan manuscript. Our story begins in 2011, when the Tashan Circle, our secret society to which you now belong, was created to research what has become known as the Tashan manuscript, a strange collection of papers, maps and notes purporting to be from another world, a world known as Arcartia. These papers were bound into a journal and were written in English by the same hand, seemingly over a period of 3 decades. The journal itself was discovered in an abandoned building north of Chicago on February the 11th, 1955 by Albert Taschen, and sold at auction upon his death by his daughter, Rosa Tipka. Her husband was from the well-known Tipka family of Pennsylvania, to a private collector. There it might have languished, all but forgotten. Little is known of Taschen other than he was from a warehouse-owning family and he valued the book enough to keep it until his death. He also gave his name to the manuscript, guaranteeing him at least some memorial. This much we know, and whilst the rest is uncertain, it will be subject to further research as time allows. One thing of which we are sure: the manuscript contains a remarkable story of another world. The journal, which is now in our own hands through means both tawdry and terrifying, is hand-bound and measures approximately 7 inches by 5 inches. It is written throughout in fine penmanship. There is a small wooden mask somehow placed or embossed on the cover, whose significance is presently undiscernible. It is certainly a unique and singular artifact. The journal, seen hidden at the bottom of the pile in this photograph, and that's the photograph I've just put onto Facebook for the live recording. If you go into the Facebook group, you'll see it there. Came to us with many esoteric and divinatory titles, such as those here: The Hours of Isis, an enigmatic retelling of the myth of Osiris through the Christian Stations of the Cross; The Light of Egypt, a book of La Clef Hermetique; The Monks of Thelema, an account of a fictional magical order; and Eldon Templar's The Tree of Heru, companion to his esoteric masterpiece, The Path of the Magus. And it goes on to discuss how the Taschen manuscript might reveal secrets of this other world called Arcadia. But I'd like you to notice something and to share with you something in that, which is the fact that even back then, even in the planning of Arcadia, we wanted to hide a lot of resonances, an awful lot of what are nowadays in films called Easter eggs, little hints and connections in between different things. Now, the Taschen manuscript only exists in imagination. However, the book, The Hours of Isis and The Light of Egypt and The Path of the Magus and The Tree of Heru, they do exist. Those are real, actual books. However, it's unlikely you'll find them because they're so rare. So we wanted to place the Taschen manuscript in the same vein as books that are actually real, but almost impossible to get hold of, so could therefore be considered maybe fictional. So here is the Easter egg that we placed in the Taschen circle. If you think back to what we then wrote in the Tarot Time Traveller, you'll notice the date is the 11th of February 1955, Chicago, USA, where we touched down our trip, bending time and space in order to start our journey in this book. But the Taschen circle points out that the journal, the Taschen journal, was discovered in an abandoned building north of Chicago on, of course, February the 11th, 1955 by Albert Taschen. Now, Albert Taschen doesn't exist, but the headlines of the day: US fleet evacuates Chinese nationalist Taschen Islands, links this piece of text with some of the fictional piece of text in the Taschen circle. And Rosa Tipka, Taschen's alleged wife or daughter, I think his daughter, is Hungarian for Rose Key, which is the secret symbol that we decided to embed through the whole story of Arcadia. And we had to go back in time to embed the rose key, including using some rituals at some of the tarot cons in order to send the rose key backwards in time so we could pick it up later. And so that I just wanted to share the fact that it is possible to hide secrets in plain sight, but very difficult. And so the whole idea that there is a say, for example, a Cathar mystery or a Hermetic Christian mystery or an alchemical mystery embedded in the Tarot de Marseille, for example, is very, very difficult. It would be very difficult to embed a secret without people finding out, and also without an awful lot of work over a very, very long period of time. And that was one of the things we wanted to try and do, is to use the Lenormand to be the signature of the secret of Arcadia. And we chose the Lenormand deck for that very reason, but then we had to popularize it because the publishers weren't interested in Lenormand at the time. So we announced it in New York at a conference. We were going to bring back salon style reading, and interesting enough, most of the people who are now the proponents of Lenormand were all at that particular event. So we can trace the track of the impact of planting a magical symbol outwards, because we actually wanted to sign the secret into public imagination and so on. In the same way that people then start to carry on using that symbol even if they're unaware of where it came from, which is exactly what we now know has happened with, of course, the Waite-Smith deck. Everyone puts a black cat with the Queen of Wands without them knowing that that's likely to be Snuffles, Eddie Craig's cat that Pamela drew into the card at Small Hythe Cottage in Tenterden. So these symbols get embedded, and that's something we're going to work on with our astral work later on. But that brings me neatly to the Lenormand itself. So I'm going to give you a little method for Lenormand, because today we are talking about symbols and dream symbols and embedding symbols, and what we're going to do a bit later, pick up a symbol that I'm going to place. There really is a secret in the deck, in that we chose to popularize it because we needed a deck that had a rose and a key in it. So I was scooting around for decks to have that symbol in, tarot decks, and I came across the Lenormand, and no one was writing about it, and there hadn't been a book published in English on it at the time, other than a self-published one, the one by is it Sylvie Steinbeck, I think. But I saw that it had the symbols that we needed in it, the bouquet and the rose. It had the rose on and the key card as well. And so I thought, oh my God, that deck with serendipity has the two symbols that we'd already chosen to utilize. So we utilize those symbols as a signature of the whole Arcadia project along the way. And you'll now know, as the Order of Hermits, that you might find the mention of the rose key in all sorts of different places as well. And guess what? Someone produced a deck that wasn't involved in the project at all, called the Under the Roses Lenormand, and they produced a card in it that was called the Rose Key. And they had no idea that they were picking up on the symbolism. And I was amazed when I saw it, because it meant that the implanting of the symbol actually worked very well. So, that's sort of quite important. So what I wanted to do was, we're going to take a very simple method. You know that I'm a fond fan of sentence structures. And when I've watched people try and teach Le Normand, they often get people confused themselves by talking about reading right to left or left to right. They explain it one way and then do it the other way. They explain it one way and you think they mean one way, but they actually mean the other way, but then they do it the other way anyway. And it's really confusing. So I listened to people when they were actually reading Le Normand, and looked at some of the older books in German and French on the system, and came up with a model for the sentence structure. Now, this is in the chapter on Le Normand in Tarot Time Traveller, so I'm just sharing it out of that book. If you want to know more about Le Normand in history, then it's in that book. But this is the Le Normand oracular sentence, TM. And that's TM. That's a trademark. This is the Le Normand oracular sentence, TM. And the reason I put TM there is because Tony Forsyth was discussing in the Facebook group yesterday whether it was possible to send a symbol back in time, or something back in time. And I said, yes, this is exactly what I will be talking about, and also something that we've actually done. If you join the Taschen Circle, you'll see what we did and what happened as a result of sending the Rose Key back in time. It actually got picked up by an occultist way back when, and we didn't know about it, and then it was revealed in a video that someone had picked up the symbol back in time, and that's a true act of real, authentic, documented magic as far as I'm concerned. But I call it retrotemporal engineering, or flux magic for short, and it's a way of sending back things so that you can pick up on them and know which way you're going in the future. And I thought I'd just better check I hadn't stolen the idea, retrotemporal engineering, from the only person I could think I might have borrowed it from is the late Maggie Ingalls, or Sora Nima, who wrote books about the Mart current, and who I worked with for a while way back when on the Mart magic. And I thought maybe I'd sort of borrowed the term from her. So I Googled it, and I just found it in my own stuff, but I also found it in someone else's book. And I thought, that's strange. Did I borrow it from their book? And then I found it in a Google version of their book, a review section. And guess what? They'd actually taken an old paper I wrote on sigil magic, verbatim, including the phrase retrotemporal engineering, and snuck it into their book. It was literally the entire section, including the example that I demonstrated going back about 15 years in the early days of the internet. And they had just yanked it into their book, which I thought was quite remarkable. I also found it on a blog as the great Guru Maharishi so-and-so has developed this incredible method of chaos magic, and then it had all of my text directly underneath that sentence. So I've learned to put TM on everything, just in case that the Le Normand oracular sentence turns up in somebody else's book. I'm sort of semi-joking, but it is quite bemusing when you find things like this happen. So the left to right method in cards, or the right to left method, doesn't really matter if you use this sentence. So the actual text, the retrotemporal engineering phrase, I had put up as a PDF on my first website called templum.com, which I later sold I sold the domain about 12 years ago, maybe, something like that. I'd had it right from the very beginning of the internet itself. And I loaded up some pre-PDFs at the time, which are still my copyright, of course, and one of it's on Sigil Magic, and it just got taken off the website and then sent around a load, and eventually turned up in other people's material. So when, by, it will bring is the sentence structure. When, by, it will bring. So when event, by agent, it will bring influence. Okay, now that is the sentence structure. So when this thing happens, by the action of this thing, it will bring this thing. And so we're going to pull 3 Lenormand cards and just fit them into this sentence to demonstrate it. When something, by something, it will bring this. And what this does is it gives us our narrative left to right. When this, by this, it will do this. But it also means that the influencing card is the end one, which is how people saying they read right to left. This card influences this card, influences this card. So this gives us the structure of what people actually do when they read, and gets round this left to right, right to left. Oh, I use the Belgian tradition. Oh, my teacher was in the French tradition. All of that is nonsense. All of that is absolute nonsense. There's literally no such thing as a Lenormand tradition, or school, or anything else. It's all been made up in the last few years. So when this, by this, it will bring this. So let's give an example then. So I'm going to shuffle the Lenormand deck and do a 3-card reading, but then I want to show you how to do a 9-card reading just with exactly the same method and the same cards. So I'm going to choose 3 cards off the top. Now, it's more difficult without a question, but I just want to demonstrate it without a question, and then come up with a question that will fit the answer in reverse, just to demonstrate it. So here are our 3 cards, and we've got the sun, the fish, and the rider. The sun, the fish, and the rider. I'll put those there. I hold them from the top, maybe. So we have the sun, the fish, and the rider. Okay. Now the sun, fish, and rider. The sun in Lenormand is basically lots of really good luck, expansion, everything for your field. It's really going to grow your crops, and it's just good luck, good blessings, and everything else. The fish is basically resources. It means you're going to have a good load of fish. There's loads of fish in the sea for you and everything else. And the rider is someone who brings you news from afar. So it's novelty, something new. So when we plug that into our sentence, we get when the sun, by the fish, it will bring the rider. Okay, so when sunlight by fish brings the rider. Okay, so you can almost say, as Ziga's pointing out, when sunlight by fish brings the rider. So when luck by your resources, it will bring something new. So, that's great use of emojis, Diane. As for those watching this as a recording or on the other platform that's not Facebook, you can't see the comments by the live group, but they are a load of trouble, I can assure you. And you're probably not missing much by missing all of their comments, because they're not taking this very seriously at all. Diane's put the sun, the fish, and the rider as emojis. So the sun, the fish, and the rider is by when sunshine, by fish, it will bring the rider. And so we then interpret that by the simple keywords, the simple things. When good luck by resources, it will bring news. When good luck by resources, it will bring news. So when you have good luck by putting your resources, probably saving, it will bring something new. So there is something, sorry, they're all getting at me in the group now. You don't know what I have to put up with in the text comments if it's watching this as a pure video, I can assure you. So that basically means you're going to have good luck by keeping your money until something new comes along. So when good luck, buy fish, it will bring something new. So when you have a bit of luck with some money, it's saying then wait, because it will bring something new. Something new will happen as a result. Okay, and that's very simple. It's just when this by this, it will bring this. Now, to do a 9-card reading, you do a 3-card reading for the main question. This isn't homework, but you can try it out for yourselves. If you do want to try it out and ask questions, we have a Learn Them On Facebook group. Okay, so this could indeed be money in the mail that brings you good luck, but it's more likely to be you will have good luck with money, but keep hold of it because something new is going to come. Because the card here on this side influences back down, so it's something new. So you have to wait for something new because that's the most influential thing on the other cards. It's not the sun, it's the influential thing. It is like an equation. It's like an equation. So to do a 9-card reading, it's very easy. You take a 3-card reading and then you do another 3-card reading above it. So you then pull 3 cards above it and do exactly the same thing, but these are what influence you. Okay, so these are above you. These are above you, and these have influence on you. These are the things you can do nothing about. And we have birds, moon, tower. Okay, so birds, moon, and tower. Birds, moon, and tower. Let's put those there, like so. So birds, moon, and tower. And birds are to do with talking, tweeting, twittering, also distraction. In the original Game of Hope, these symbolize Canary Islands, but it doesn't mean every time you pull it, you're going to go to the Canary Islands. It just meant something good through chatter and talk. But also many things in distraction. The moon in Lenormand is slightly different to the moon in tarot. It's about virtue and how it reflects on your virtue. And then the tower in Lenormand is all about a watchtower, borders, boundaries. In psychological readings, I use this as personal space and boundaries because the tower in Lenormand is more to do with the administration centre from one state to another. And the towers were usually around the cities. And you had to produce your papers there. So sometimes they're about being by yourself as well, like a hermit going into a tower. In some of the more contemporary German books, because again, unbeknownst to a load of people, we actually read a lot of the French and German books, actually bought all of them that were in print, from the sort of 70s and 90s before we did our Lenormand book. But here, the tower is boundaries. So here we have, let's do it this. So it's birds first, moon and tower. So when birds by tower, it will, when birds by moon, it will bring the tower. When birds by moon, and now Diane's just showing off. When birds by moon, it will bring the tower. And I love the poetry of some of these cards when you say it in the way. I also like when you put them into houses, and you can have the birds are in the house of the park, or the birds are in the house of the moon, or the man is in the house of the fountain, and so on. So here we have when birds by moon, it will bring the tower. Birds by moon, it will bring the tower. So what is above you is when there is chattering on your status, it will bring the tower. So above you, and this is probably why you have to hold on to your money, there are people chattering about your morals, your ethics, about what your values, what you're going to do with money, and that might bring an inspection. That might bring an inspection, some sort of boundary or officialdom into your life, because the tower can also be big business, bureaucracy, government, and so on. So other people are going to chatter about you, reflect on what you're doing, and they may bring, it almost might be like a sort of benefits inspection, a tax inspection or something like that. So you're going to have to be careful that is above you, because that is influencing you. So yeah, as Julia's saying, we then have those three cards above those three cards. And I'm sorry I can't show this properly in this video, but you can imagine those three cards on top of those three cards. The birds are on top of the sun, and the moon is on top of the fish, and the tower is on top of the man, of the rider. So the tower could be keeping a careful eye on the new thing that's coming in. Okay. The man is in the house of the fountain. Well, interestingly enough, Lily, that is, there is a secret in Arcadia in the House of the Fountains, which you now know when you get to that. If you ever see that in Arcadia, it's actually based on Le Normand, buried underneath Arcadia. So then you do another three-card reading at the bottom with exactly the same structure. So when book by whip, it will bring the man. There we go. When book by whip, will bring the man. And this is what is underneath you. This is what you have influence on. So when book by whip, it will bring the man. Well, the book is secrets, whip is argument and discussion, and the man is the man. So when secrets by argument, it will bring the man. So there is likely to be in your control a way of putting yourself in a way of arguing with the law, with what is the contract or written material that is to do with the money that the good luck has brought you. Okay, so that is good advice for you to argue the case by the book, by the law, by the rules. And that, of course, the book would be under the sun and under the birds as well. So the book, the actual rules, would be underneath the luck. That would be the thing that the people are talking about, but may just be idle chatter and not based on anything actually written down. So it's doing it by the letter, doing it by the contract. And yeah, again, this is where Le Normand needs a question. It really needs a question. If this was about, I've just come into an inheritance, which was often asked about the Le Normand, and quite often the coffin in Le Normand meant an inheritance, then if this was about that, then definitely the family would be talking. They wouldn't trust you to look after the money, even though you come into it. There would be chatter about that might bring some sort of legal thing, but you have to argue it by the book. And the three cards below, as Marcy is asking, are what you have influence over. So the three cards above are what weigh on you, influences you. The three cards in the middle are your direct line of agency and action and what is actually happening in the situation. And the 3 cards below are things you have influence over. The closer it is to you, the more influence you have over it. And basically, if you read the 9 cards like that, building them up from that simple sentence structure with 3 cards, then do 3 cards on top, 3 cards below, then start to look at the corners of those cards, the corners, the 4 corners, look at the columns as well and see how they then play with each other. The top thing has influence over the middle thing, which has influence over the bottom thing. Then you can read the grand tableau, because the 3 cards by the 3 cards by the 3 cards make a 9, and that 9 is just repeated all over the grand tableau. And then you can pick any point in the grand tableau to read from. So, for example, you could read from, if you were to the house, or a marriage or a contract, you would choose the ring and you would read the cards either side of the ring, like we've just done, the cards above the ring and the cards below it. But then if right next to it was, for example, the fish, then you could read the 3 cards, including the ring next to it, and the card next to it, and the 3 cards above and the 3 cards below, in exactly the same way, to read about the resources and the money. And then you could look at exactly the same spread, the same grand tableau, look at the cross card and look at where all of the suffering is and what you can do about it, the 3 cards underneath, what's happening, the 2 cards either side, and what's weighing on that suffering, the 3 cards above. So you can then use direction for the rider is coming in. And say, for example, with the clouds, that's quite important. But the direction is often badly drawn in different decks, and this is the original Lenormand, so it doesn't really have a lot of directionality. You could say that this is the lighter side of the cards and this is the dark side of the cards on the clouds. So something this side is less confusing and something this side is more confusing. But then what then happens is most of the directionality in the distancing is actually not from Lenormand card reading. It's from the reading of coffee grounds in a cup. And that's where Lenormand reading really takes its roots, is from the reading of coffee grounds in a cup. So that's why distance and the shape and the clarity, i.e. darker or lighter, if it's darker in coffee grounds, it's more clear. You know, the symbol is more clear. Like if it was a line or something, it would be very clear what that was. If it was broken up or unclear or lighter, it would be less clear. But in Lenormand, they then went and said, well, if the card is darker on one side or the snake is pointing this way, then that's worse or better. I tend not to read that too much unless it's really significant, because I don't know if the designer of that particular deck had that in mind as a methodology, as a tool within the deck. It's sort of like having a mobile phone and thinking you can use a particular app when that app isn't actually installed. You might think you're using an app, but actually it's a totally different app. Okay. So the Grand Tableau is very detailed, but it's really good. I always recommend Lenormand readers, students, start with the Grand Tableau. Don't try and think that it is, easier to read just 1 or 3 cards, like card of the day and things like that. Do not do that with Lenormand. You waste an awful lot of time, in my opinion. It will take you a year to then start to unlearn that in order to learn how to put the cards together in one go. If you dive in deep, you'll find you can swim in little bits of it and then expand outwards, and that's the best way to do it. Lay out the grand tableau, even if you only read 3 cards in it. That's fine. Just be aware of the other cards around, and eventually it will start to ease up. And that would be my insider advice from learning Lenormand. Okay, are we ready for our in terms of Lenormand decks? Then get one of the piano decks or the Blue Owl deck, or even better, of course, we have 13 copies remaining of the original Lenormand, which comes the 4th edition in a wonderful little tin, with the original cover of the Game of Hope from the British Museum embossed on it. I was told today we have 13 of these left, and I don't know when we'll have the money to buy another license, because the license is bloody expensive. And then we have to invest that, and then until we've sold all of the decks to make anything back on it. So we have 13 of these left. If you go to originallenormand.com, all one word, that will take you to the order form for the original. But if you I don't know how many dollars they are, but they're far more expensive than just a printed deck, a sort of mass-produced deck. So if you want a mass-produced deck, you want to invest in the original Lenormand, then I would buy a Piatnik deck or a Blue Owl deck. Actually, the cards that come with the Learning Lenormand kit, which is called the French Cartomancy deck, even though I think it's a Dondorf deck, that's also a reasonable deck, but the cards are a bit bigger. They're not a sort of smaller Lenormand size, but perfectly adequate for a beginner, and very cheap, the Lenormand kit, which comes with a book. I also use Ciro Marchetti's deck and his spread cloth. That's my second favorite thing to use, because Tali advised Ciro on the extra cards. So we had some advisory role, and I think Tali wrote I know Tali wrote the little white book that goes with Ciro's Lenormand. Again, is quite ironic because that translated into German, and Ciro reported that it sold massively across Germany because there was a new craze for Lenormand. So actually, a load of people are now reading Lenormand in Germany with Tali's recasting of the original instructions for the Lenormand as the tradition. So these things just all go around, and it's just important to get your own headset right in what you're reading. With one system, one way of doing it, find your own, develop your own, and then look at others. Don't try and get confused by trying to learn lots of different things all at the same time. Okay? So, and indeed, yes, there is a rose key in the Tarot Illuminati. Don't know how that got there. But if you join the Tashin Circle, which again is free, you'll get a load of emails discussing the grand mystery that was set up ready for the Arcadia experience. So right now, we are now going to do our symbol. Okay, now what I want you to do, so we just for 5 minutes, I'm going to give you the instructions for what you're going to do tonight and tomorrow. Okay, and Wednesday the 6th, and then on Thursday we're going to discuss it. And this is sort of homework and practice and an experiment. What I'd like you to do on the evening of the 5th of the 5th, 2020, is close your eyes when you go to sleep, as you go to sleep, and visualize, as you practiced yesterday, your ideal astral self. Ideal astral self, as you did yesterday. And I'll come back to Ziga's question in a second. And when you do that in front of you, I want you to then take a deep breath inside your own mind and step forwards into inhabiting, like an aura, like a shell, like a costume, that idealized self. And I want you to feel what you would feel, hear what you would hear, see what you would see in that body, in the idealized astral traveler body that you have visualized in front of yourself. Okay? And then what I would like you to do is this, and this is the trick, is in that idealized astral body, I want you to then, feeling how you feel in that perfect astral traveler body, visualize another one in front of you that's even more perfect, even more attuned to traveling on the astral plane. Visualize what that would look like. Maybe it glows a bit more than the one you've just made. Maybe it's shimmers. Maybe it's just ripples with light or something. But once you're in the first one, visualize another in front of you. Take a deep breath in. When you're ready, step into that one, still inside the one you've made, and into the second one. Okay, does that make sense? And then really feel what that would feel like, this perfect astral body that you would travel in. Okay, like another suit on top of the existing one. If you want, you can do it a third time. If you want, you can do it as many times as you want. But you might zone out a little bit if you do it too many times. If you want, even in that glowing, astrally perfect body, close your eyes, keep your eyes closed, and then visualize another one in front of you, just soaring with energy, rippling, changing the fabric of time and space all around it. And then take a deep breath and step into that, and then feel what that would feel like. Okay? And when you're in that third body, second or third, it doesn't matter, I want you to all do this for me. So those are the general instructions for starting an astral trip anyway. But now what I want you to do is then visualize in front of you this singular thing. This is the thing you've got to remember for your homework. A yellow door with a red rose on the center of it. Okay, so it's a yellow door, a bit like this yellow behind me, and a red rose directly in the center of the door, not at eyesight level or anything else, but in the center of the door, like a wooden but painted red rose carved in the middle of the door. Okay? And when you're ready, tonight, on the 5th of the 5th, 2020, whatever you want to do it, because I've already put it there, and I'm going to put it there tonight and tomorrow night on the 6th of the 5th, is you can open the door, and behind it, I placed an object. Now, I don't want to make it massively complicated or difficult. The object is an animal, okay? It's an animal. So we can narrow it down. I placed a particular animal behind the door. So when you open the door and travel into it with your shimmering astral body through that specific symbol of the yellow door with the red rose, I have connected to that symbol another astral symbol, which is the symbol, and the symbol is a particular animal. And I want you to get a sense of what that is. If it seems to fade in or out, it doesn't matter. Wait until something settles with your gut feeling. Maybe try and smell, see the landscape that you might enter into behind the door. hear what you might hear in the landscape behind the door. And whenever you've got the animal, you can talk to it, you can do things, it might take you on an adventure, you might even dream about, but then come back out of the door when you wake up. Okay, does that make sense? And it is shamanic. It's actually part of a lead-in to the inner guide meditation, because again, when I teach techniques or we do things or experiments, it always resonates with other things that I'm, possibly someone might learn from me. And one of the things is the inner guide meditation, and in that, one of the steps, you can walk back again if you're happy to do so, and then just go to sleep normally. And tomorrow, if you want, you can check or go back in. If you didn't find the animal tonight, you've got tomorrow, because we won't have a video tomorrow, Wednesday, the 6th of May. Then on Thursday, I would ask you not to share with anyone what animal you got, because then I'll ask you all in one go to write your animal into the chat window before I reveal on a bit of paper what the animal actually was, okay? Because I'm going to plant it again tonight, and I'll consolidate it again tomorrow, and then on Thursday we can let the door go, and we can see if we all did meet or not, or some of us did, or what the experience was like. It doesn't really matter what you get. It doesn't matter how successful it is. The idea is to have fun with it, is to practice it a little bit, because sometimes it takes maybe a ritual to consolidate a sort of astral link or etheric link. But yeah, we will keep it secret, left finger to the bottom of the lip. And we'll see. Yeah, if you see a whole zoo, then please have a wander around the zoo to find a sign to say this one is Marcus's animal. Okay, this one is Marcus's animal, because we all just need one. Okay, so we're almost at the top of the hour. Thank you for joining us on this descending pandemic airways flight 2020, back to the new normal. And we are going to see how we do with our astral travel tonight. But the trick is, the unique trick that I teach is this. And it won't be the giraffe on the motorbike, that's for sure. And just to go back to Ziga's question, which was something about, I can't remember now. There was a very specific question earlier on, which I can't now see in the chat window. So we'll come back to it tomorrow. I'll look up again, and I'll find it for tomorrow. Okay then, right, so thanks for your time and attention, and we'll skip tomorrow, do our practice, and then we'll meet up on Thursday, sharing your animal until Thursday in the group. Thanks a lot for your time and attention, and I'll link to the original Lenormand as well. Take care of yourselves, look for each other and yourselves. Bye for now. See you on Thursday.